The last time I was in this car park, I was stood in front of a £72,000 BMW M2. And I was talking about all the reasons why it's a financially irresponsible thing to do. And how it doesn't actually make you happy. Because out in the real world, on real roads, you can't really use the performance. So what we're going to do today is, first of all, we're going to stand here and we're going to talk a little bit of a philosophy about why cars like this are great. I'll take you on a tour around the car and show you just how much car you get for £1,000. And then we'll take it out on the road and I'll show you what it's like to drive a £1,000 car. Spoiler, this is a brilliant £1,000 car. OBDEleven have sponsored today's video, but in order to talk about OBDEleven, we've got to jump in a different car. OBDEleven is super easy to use. All you do, plug the OBD reader just down there, and then you can scan your car to find out what's wrong with it. And of course, I have 2 faults, but we're going to clear them. And there we go, our faults are cleared. The thing that sets OBDEleven apart from all the other OBD readers is that they have one-click apps. You can do cool stuff like leave your exhaust permanently open, allow playing video while you're moving. This is a personal favorite. Turn off the active sound design. You know, the fake exhaust noise that's in the cabin? One click turns that off. OBDEleven is compatible with BMW, of course, but also the Volkswagen Auto Group, so Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat, and Audi, and also the Toyota Group, including Lexus. I do have a discount code, which is MIC, and you can use that to get this discount. Make sure to click the link in the description below. Right then, let's get back to talking about that thing, eh? So philosophy. When I was here talking about my M2, I talked about how you can potentially financially ruin yourself by buying an expensive car. Well, this is the opposite end of the spectrum. If you do this to yourself, you essentially secure your future. Nobody needs a car payment on a £1,000 car. This could be your first car, and this could be your last car. I should also mention high mileage, 140,000 miles on the clock. But you want to be careful when you're doing something like this. Pay attention to a few things. Number 1, the mileage, high is okay. Number 2, the brand. Do this with a Japanese car. If you're going to buy cheap, buy Japanese. You know why? They might rust, but they won't break. This car's kind of almost characterful in the fact that, like, it's fucked, but it will still drive. I'll show you some of those quirks as we go through. And then the third thing is the service history. Now, if you're doing this properly, you make sure the car has a full service history. You know, it's been owned by some 65-year-old Donny that's changed the oil on time for 25 years, but I didn't do that. This car was some young Polish Don's first car. He changed the oil on himself, he changed the clutch himself, he changed a bunch of shit himself, he did the brakes himself, he repainted the wheels himself. I mean, look at the quality here. that's I will say the brakes are actually in reasonable condition. You could just see that yeah, it's okay. You can see the paint mark. But yeah, so if you're going to do this, get one with a good service history. Don't be like me. You're going to hear me giggling throughout this video because this car makes me happy. I love the idea of like spending a pittance and having transportation that is actually good. It feels great, you know? I've been driving this more than I have my M2 just because, like, if I'm going to the shops, I'd rather take this. I can put it in car park spaces between 2 cars and I don't want to die. One of the points in my M2 video was that type of car is great if you've got somebody to impress, right? And I've got you guys to impress. I need people to click on the thumbnails. So an M2 almost makes sense. If I'm going somewhere where it does not make a fucking difference, if people think I'm cool or successful, now I'm driving this because I prefer driving this. And we're going to get to this point throughout the video. But I think this is more fun to drive than my M2. Bit crazy, I know. Right then, let me take you on a walk around. So this is a Mazda 6. It's the 2-litre engine with about 160 horsepower. It's the same engine Mazda put in just about everything. They're still putting it in cars today, and they were putting it in cars from like 2003. It is a 5-door because it is a hatchback body style. And this is where we get into the good stuff. Look at the size of that fucking boot. I could sleep in here. My wife detailed the inside of the car and I detailed the outside, but this was like, I don't know, a month ago. And I plan on never washing this again, so who cares, right? But she did clean the inside, so the inside's actually kind of nice. And it's a hatchback. So you could, if you fold the seats down, you could probably, I think you could put a sofa in there. Like a small little love seat. You could definitely put a wardrobe in. And it's got the twin exhaust pipes because Mazda do that when you get the 2-litre engine to make you feel cool. You can see the previous owner that I mentioned has bumped it into some things. You can see bits of damage. Honestly, there's bits like that all over the fucking car. Who cares? Look at this, I'll show you something cool. Now, this is something I am not used to. Passenger space in the back. Come on, mate. You could, like, okay. We're gonna get into this on the driving parts of this video, right? But this is a good, comfortable, luxury car. I'm not even kidding. You could have 4 adults in here. Like, I have a OCD about having the seats at the same distance, which they are. But the legroom is great back here. Like, this is more spacious than some modern cars that I've been in that are way bigger externally, but don't make use of the interior space. The seats are really comfy. It fits me. It's a good car. And okay, we're going to get into this more. We're going to take it driving. Let me finish walking you around the car. Electric windows, even in the back. Hey. When Mazda built this I think this model came out about 2005, 2006. This was the top of the Mazda range, unless you went for an SUV. But if you wanted a saloon car, which in the day was the popular choice, this is the best you could get from Mazda. This was trying to compete with not the BMW 3 Series, but the BMW 5 Series. This car wasn't designed to compete with like Corollas and Yaris's. This was a luxury car. In 2008, you would have gone to a showroom and test driven a Mercedes E-Class and thought, ooh, my monthlies are a bit high. And then you would have gone to Mazda, test drove this and thought, ooh, the monthlies are really good. You could buy it for £1,000 now with a bit of miles on. Let's finish the walk around with the driver's seat. It's got a bit of wear, nothing too bad. It's a lovely place to be. This is the crazy thing. Mazda were putting effort into making cars in 2008. So was every other car manufacturer. So buying a car this old doesn't necessarily mean you get a shit product. Yeah, you might have a slightly older product, like there's no infotainment, but the stuff that matters, the way the pedals feel, the way you sit, the positioning of the armrest, the way these buttons fall to hand, the reach to the steering wheel, it just all feels good. And there's more good feelings as we get out on the road. There are some questions about reliability on cars this old, and I have had some problem. I'll turn the ignition on the car on, and I'll show you some of the car's quirks because, you know, it's almost 20 years old. Listen to this. There's something wrong with the blower motor. It's probably not the blower motor. It's probably the thing that directs where air goes. It's fucked. So it makes that noise every time you turn the ignition. Also, it's got a weak battery. So on the back seat, I've got a battery charger, like booster thing, in case I can't start the car. Actually, this morning I haven't driven it for a week. I was very worried it wouldn't start. So this is my procedure to get in the car this morning. Let's see if the piece of shit will turn on. Come on, baby. Oh, it's making the noise. That's usually a good sign. Come on, baby. Oh, let's fucking go. It actually started. But you know, it works. It's just a bit iffy. All right, let's get out of here, get on the road, and we'll talk more about how the car drives. An important point to mention with cars like this is that you don't have to baby it or care about it. Like, if there are some bushes that are sticking out from the road and they touch your paint, on my M2 I'd be like, oh my god, no, must avoid death, no, because it's like a £5,000 bill if you scratch a quarter panel. In this car, every panel's already scratched. I don't care. Like, you're not worried in town situations that someone's gonna pull out and, you know, dent the car, and then you're gonna have this insurance headache to deal with, and now you're gonna have to declare it on your insurance for the next 5 years and all of this shit. Someone could just crash into this now, and I'm like, all right, I'll buy another one. Having a car you don't care about is a superpower. I'm about to do something that I would never do in my nice car. And that is go to a supermarket and park next to humans. I would park right here, which is as far from the entrance as physically possible, because then I have less chance of somebody, but do you know where I'm going to park now? I'm going to park next to the fucking door. Yeah? I could park right here. Look at this. I would never, ever in a million years leave the M2 like this. But you see, it's so empowering. Like, I'm not even joking. It sounds like I'm being cringe and silly and joking and whatever, but I'm really not. Maybe you won't understand this until you've owned like a really nice car that you've worked super hard for and means a lot to you, right? That's what the M2 is to me. But this car, I don't care. Drive into it. I'll drive it into something. I really couldn't give a shit. And that is a powerful way to feel, because it means every journey is automatically less stressful. Every journey doesn't have to be a risk assessment of, oh, we're not going to go to this hotel because the area is not great, so I can't park the M2 in the car park, and all of this shit. You don't have to deal with any of that. You just get in the car and drive it, And if someone crashes into it, who the fuck cares? And immediately, the first thing you notice in this car is just how smooth it is. The engine, on 140-odd thousand miles, it's a 4-cylinder 2-litre. It should not be this smooth. But it's lovely, it's tractable. Look at this, 1500 RPM I'm turning right now. And it's just like, yeah, waft. We come into a national speed limit, we drop a gear. It hasn't got a lot of power, but it's got enough to get you going. The car's also not too wide, so you're not too worried sending it through some of these narrower roads. Look at this, 5th gear, 50 miles an hour, just over 2,000 RPM. This is how it sits on the motorway, just over 2,500 RPM. I can whisper in here, and you can still hear me. The suspension's super cushiony and soft. The steering is direct. Slow down, so we can have a little bit of fun. Let's go. It's not even that slow to 60. A car doesn't need to be fast to be fun. But you know what's crazy? In the middle of every corner, this steering rack is telling me stuff, which I am not used to with the M2. Let's go through this a little bit quickly. And as I turn in, yeah, the steering's doing stuff. It's great. It's brilliant. You don't get that with electronic racks anymore. And you know what? I've been driving electronic racks for so long that I forgot what a good hydraulic steering is like. And don't get me wrong, this is still super light. Like I can, it doesn't do much off there. We're moving a little bit. It doesn't do that much off center. It's not like some super quick steering rack, and it's incredibly light, but it drives well. Like it's competent. It can get around the corners at a good speed, and it's giving me a little bit back. And this is what gets me onto this point now, which is that I would rather come out here and drive this than the M2, because I feel like I'm closer to the limit in this car. In the M2, the limits are so high, it can go around some of these corners at 100, 120 miles an hour. And there's a number of reasons why I don't want to go around these corners at 100 and 120 miles an hour. One, because I might, die. And two, because I'll lose my license and all this stuff. But in this car, it feels like 60 is pretty much the limit of how fast it can go around some of these corners. I am now driving basically as fast as the car can go. So it feels fun. You feel like you're really driving. And that's on, country lanes and trying to have fun and drive a little bit faster and all of this stuff that I talk about in my videos all the time. My wife went through a big pothole the other day and she exploded one of the rear tires. So we went to a tire garage, just limped the car along on its flat tire. The other rear tire was kind of cracked, so we replaced both. The guy asked me, what tires do you want? I said, whatever's cheapest. I put 2 new rear tires on the back wheels of this car for like 80 quid. Couldn't tell you what brand they are. Honestly, don't care what brand they are because it makes no difference. It's the combination of the fact that it's actually a good car. Like, it drives well. Look at this. I'm going to where I need to go to. And that's combined with the fact that it's cheap. When you have something good and something cheap, it feels like a cheat code. It feels like you're not giving anything up where you should be. It feels like you've discovered something that nobody else knows about. Because everyone else has got their, £300 to £500 car payment, and you're here driving around for free. I love this thing. Honestly, I've genuinely fallen for this car. It's so good. If I had to summarize this car, here's what I'd say. Normal cars are normal. If you want a car, right? You don't want a sports car, you don't want a fast car, you don't want an expensive car, you don't want a special car. If you just want a car, a vehicle to get from A to B, and maybe sometimes have a bit of fun, just buy something like this. Any normal car, right? This is the same. Nice and quiet. It's nice and comfortable. It will get you where you're going. But that is a ridiculous statement because it cost £1,000. So why is anybody paying for newer cars? So you really have no reason not to have one of these. Like, even if you have a nice car, you should just buy one of these to keep the mileage off of your nice car. My name's Mick. I drive cars. Peace.